What's going on, everyone? Dalt here with LSA Parts in the Scrap Life Garage, and we are finally back working on the FD. The R8 and my mom's surprise NSX projects were both keeping me busy for a while, but the FD was not forgotten about. We have been ordering parts behind the scenes for it, and we are going to dive right in and get in this thing with the motor in, the trans, we have the clutch, bell housing, got the wheels back on the car because I was tired of looking at it looking like a pile of junk with spares in the parking lot. So let's dive right into this thing. So being that this is the first time that the wheels have made their appearance on the YouTube channel here, I wanted to take a quick second, talk about them. I personally am very excited about them. I love the way that they look on the car. When I bought them, I hadn't seen them on another FD. I bought them over a year ago, and that was before I took the car apart to do the LSA build on it. So I was planning on putting it right onto the road and driving it, so I bought some nice wheels for it, and that ended up not happening. And since then, I've seen them pop up on a couple FDs, and I think that they look absolutely great. So they are the Enkei GTC 01RRs. And these are, it's a square setup on the car. They are 18 by 9.5 plus 35s on all four corners. On the rear here, we are on the top end of the spectrum. We have the 285 35 18s, which is basically about as big as you want to go on a 9.5 more or less. And then on the front here, we have a little bit of a stretch, and these are 255 35 18s in order to clear the fenders. And they are relatively aggressive offset. The fronts are a little bit shouldn't really require any camber or anything like that. I'm not into that, but I've had similar specs on RPF ones to these, so I knew that they would kind of work. So we went ahead and picked those up, and again, I think that they look pretty darn good on the car. I'll give you guys another look from the other side here. Hopefully get this thing outside, get some better pictures now that I'm going to leave these on and not have the junkers on there, because this thing should hopefully be running very, very soon. All right, let's dive into the rest.
How much power would this thing make?
That's a question for him.
Yeah?
We're going to max it. It should make about 8.
8?
8.
And this is an LS what?
It's an LSA bottom end.
Okay.
Full LSA rotating assembly. And it has 243 heads on it, cathedral ports, to hopefully make a little bit more torque.
What do you expect to make out of the whole setup?
8.
Oh, 8.
Oh,
8.
yeah, we're going to max it, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's going to need E85 and some big injectors.
That's going to be pretty terrifying, no?
It's going to be fun. We'll see how scary it is, but it's going to be fun one way or another.
It's going to be a handful.
So the motor here we have already talked about. That is in a separate video. Hopefully you guys have already checked that out. So I'm not really going to dive into anything about the motor because we've already talked about that. What we are going to talk about, though, is what we are putting behind the motor. So here we have a McLeod RXT twin disc that is going to hold well more power than I'm going to throw at it. I think that thing is good to about 1,200 horsepower, and we're only planning on making right about 8 with the motor. That's what the blower is going to max at, is going to be 8. So unless I switch anything else up, that setup is going to make right about 800 wheel, and that should be good. The internals on the motor, being an LSA, should be completely fine with that, and that should be relatively safe running E85. We also have a QuickTime bell housing that we are going to wrap the clutch with, and then we have a T56 Magnum F that we are putting behind it. And I went back and forth with this. I was talking to Killer FD that has the purple 20B that he is now switching up. FD that is right over in the Delaware area, and I absolutely love his car. It's a great build on it. He has the DCT trans, and I was really thinking about doing the DCT behind this thing. I haven't seen somebody do it in an LS FD yet. I've seen FDs that are rotary have it, but not the LSFD. And ultimately, us getting the R8 kind of swayed my decision, even though a DCT should be a much quicker and better shifting transmission than the R-Tronic that is in the R8. I think that having a true manual transmission and this car not being a max effort car really is what led me to want to put a actual call it a, an H style pattern, even though it's more than an H, being a 6-speed, rowing through the gears, manual transmission in the FD, make it a real driver friendly car as a street car. Even though I'm going to do some racing with it, that's kind of what we're building this thing to. So I keep having to kind of put myself in check. So we're going to go with this here. Again, this should be more than enough from a power perspective to put it down to the ground with how much we're planning on making on this thing. So let's go ahead and get it all put together and get it put into the FD. So we have the motor trans combo set up to go into the FD, and the reason that I didn't do a whole lot of filming on it is because I'm going to be doing it again. Because in my haste to get this thing in while I had them in it, I didn't realize that the ARP flywheel bolts that I ordered are not here yet. So we're going to have this thing coming back out, but I wanted to take the time while I have it to get it in, because we got to figure out what is going to be going on with the blower itself. So this is going to kind of be more of a test fit. It'll probably be in for a couple weeks here, and I'll figure out what I need to figure out as far as test fitting stuff, and then we will pull it back out when the flywheel bolts come in and get the clutch actually bolted up, everything measured up, and then it'll go in for the final time. All right, after a giant fight with the transmission mount on this thing, which I have no idea why, it's such a pain in the butt. I remember my other cars having an issue with the trans mount design on these two. It's just very difficult to get everything in place. But it is in. I'm going to step out of the way, let you guys check it out. So this thing sits further forward than I was anticipating. So we are definitely going to be trimming up the hood. Honestly, in the video, it looks, I think, better than it actually is. It is way far forward, and you know, I've seen a couple pictures of this thing like that, but that is what we're working with here. So it looks like we're basically gonna have to chop up the front of the hood, which originally I didn't want to do, and I knew doing this that I would. Originally I was hoping to just have to do kind of like a cut along those lines, but it's definitely gonna have to be a lot bigger and also in a lot different spot. You can see it's basically like right here. So we definitely have some work to do, but I am excited that it is in. Like I said, the trans mount is in. I think that everything is roughly in place, and that way I can really figure out what I'm doing from here with a radiator and intercooler setup on it. Originally, I was optimistic that I'd be able to do maybe some sort of V-mount still, but like looking at this, it'll be relatively tight. So again, unless I'm going to be chopping out like that bar down there or something like that, it's going to be interesting. So now it is in though, and I needed it to be in order to figure all this stuff out, which is why I went through the trouble of putting it in, even though I know that I have to either take it back out or do the clutch in the car. But this is what we're going to be working with, and we will figure out a way to make it work. So I did want to have this in for our open house. For anybody that hasn't seen on Facebook or Instagram, we're doing an open house on Saturday, October 9th to benefit the Queen Anne's County Animal Shelter. So check it out. If you guys are in the area and you're free, swing by. I wanted to have this in, and I'm going to get the hood clearance and all that before then, so that way it can be sitting outside. We got it sitting on the good wheels, and that will be a good stopping point for this video. So thank you guys for tuning in. Appreciate all the support again, and we will see you soon.